Today, we are diving into an absolutely incredible story. It's about a media sensation that completely took over print, film, and radio, only to just disappear. How does that even happen?
So, how does a story win an Oscar, totally conquer the radio, and then just vanish off the face of the earth? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning.
All right, so our story kicks off way back in 1939. There's this novel by a guy named Christopher Morley, and it doesn't just sell. It becomes a massive nationwide bestseller.
So, what was it about? Well, the basic plot is a classic, right? A white-collar girl falls for a young, rich socialite, and his family is not having it. But here's the thing. It wasn't the love against the odds part that got everybody talking. Oh no, it was the details.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The book was controversial because it got into some really heavy themes for the time. We're talking out-of-wedlock pregnancy and even abortion. You have to remember, this was the late 1930s. These were topics you just didn't discuss openly.
So, as you can probably guess, with a bestseller that scandalous, Hollywood came knocking, and they didn't wait around. They adapted it almost immediately.
And the movie wasn't just some flash in the pan. It was a smash hit. We're talking critical acclaim, big box office numbers, and get this, Ginger Rogers, who starred in it, won the Academy Award for Best Actress. It was so big it even inspired a whole style of dress named after the main character. It was a full-blown cultural phenomenon.
And just look at this timeline. It really shows you how fast this whole thing exploded. In 1939, it's a novel. By 1940, it's an Oscar-winning movie. And just a couple years later, it's debuting as a radio show. The speed was just incredible.
Okay, so now Kitty Foyle is about to take on its next form, and you could argue its most popular one yet, a daily radio soap opera.
So at first, Kitty Foyle was just a little segment on a bigger show. But it became so popular, so quickly, that listeners basically demanded more. CBS listened, and get this, they just gave Kitty Foyle the entire time slot. Plus, it was sponsored by General Mills, which was a huge deal back then.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just some slapped-together production. They brought in the absolute heavy hitters of daytime drama. I mean, the creator, the producers, these were the legends of the industry. The people behind shows like Guiding Light. And to top it all off, the voice of Kitty's love interest was Bud Collyer, who was literally the voice of Superman on the radio. This was an all-star team.
So for 2 straight years, every weekday, millions of people would stop what they were doing and tune in for their 15-minute dose of drama from Kitty's life in Philadelphia. It became this daily ritual for so many households.
All right, fast forward. After being gone for over a decade, the Kitty Foyle story gets resurrected. Why? Well, there's a new king in town, television, and they wanted a piece of the action.
So in 1958, NBC decides to make a really big gamble. They make Kitty Foyle their very first 30-minute daytime soap. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but back then, everything was 15 minutes. This was a huge shift. And they did it with a brand new cast, too.
So they've got this fresh new cast, which even included a super young Patty Duke, who would go on to be a huge star. They've got this ambitious new format. I mean, on paper, it looks like a slam dunk, right? So what happened?
Well, for whatever reason, the magic was just gone. The TV version completely failed to connect with viewers. The story that felt so shocking and sensational back in the 30s and 40s, well, by 1958, it just felt old. The world had changed. What was once scandalous was now kind of tame, and audiences were looking for something new.
So that big TV gamble, it lasted a grand total of 5 months. Just 5 months before it got the axe. Think about that. After being a household name for years across books, movies, and radio, Kitty Foyle was just over.
So let's just take a step back and look at the whole incredible journey. It's the story of one idea told across 3 decades in 3 totally different ways.
I mean, it starts as this controversial bestseller that has the whole country talking. Then it becomes this Oscar-winning phenomenon on the big screen. After that, it's a daily habit for millions on the radio. And then, it's a TV show that just completely misses the mark. The rise was just as spectacular as the fall was sudden. And it all leaves you with this one really fascinating question, doesn't it? What makes a story a huge hit in one era but a total flop in the next? What's that secret ingredient that makes some stories last forever while others just fade away?
Hey, if you enjoyed this little trip through media history, do us a favor and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next explainer. And hey, drop a comment below and let us know what story you think we should dive into next. We'd love to hear from you.